This is Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel. The Owens Community College Campus Read is taking place now and throughout the semester, with the goal of bringing awareness of different perspectives through books. The Campus Read book is Carrie, a Memoir of Survival on Stolen Land, from 2020 recipient of the NEA Creative Writing Fellowship, Toni Jensen. It's a memoir and essays about gun violence, land, and Indigenous women's lives. Now sharing passages, topics, and events related to the book, Carrie, a Memoir of Survival on Stolen Land, is Owens Community College Director of Library Services, Jane Berger, and Professor of English, Jen Hazel.
Hi, everyone. We're going to talk big today. I'm Jen Hazel, and I have with me
Jane Berger
and
Raven Weathers.
And I'm sure you all remember Raven from about 2 weeks ago when we dove into a passage in Chapter 5. Jane, do you have one in Chapter 6?
Yes, I do. For those of you who want to follow along, page 70, right at the top. On April 19, 1995, little more than a year before I arrived in Kingman, McVeigh pulled his rented Ryder truck in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City and detonated a bomb. It killed 168 people, including 19 children, and more than 500 people were injured. Before 9/11, it was counted in the official record as the worst domestic act of terrorist in our country's history. You don't have to leave the state of Oklahoma to find other examples, though. The Greenwood Massacre on what was called Black Wall Street in nearby Tulsa, in which an estimated 100 to 300 black men, women, and children were murdered and up to 800 injured in 1921. Or the 8,700 to 17,000 Choctaw, Creek, Chickasaw, Cherokee, and Seminole people who died during the removal era. The placard's gold stars are set around McVeigh's name in the hotel hallway like it's a miniature Hollywood Walk of Fame, right here, just for me, or for any other traveler who's tired and has stopped for the night. So for those of you who might be too young to remember, Timothy McVeigh, he bombed the federal building in Oklahoma City several years ago. Toni Jensen happened to be staying at the hotel where he had stayed before he did this. She's referring to, it was almost like a memorial of sorts, showing that Timothy McVeigh once stayed here. Why would you want to advertise that? That just blew me away. And I think that's her point too, like it's almost a badge of honor, like, oh, look who stayed here. But her big point here is that here this is, something that this hotel is kind of notorious for, when in the 20s and since that time, all of these other people, the Black Wall Street, the Native American people, had far more people who were lost. But you don't see that really being memorialized anywhere.
It makes me think of two things, Jane. The one, it's when we talk about serial killers versus talking about their victims. So we're highlighting that perpetrator instead of highlighting the victims. In many cases, we know the names of like a serial killer, but not the name of the victim. Why is that what you want to promote versus wanting to promote something else and highlighting that? Because it's making it sound like it's something that is great, or it should be
glorified.
Yes, Raven,
Agreed.
glorified. Absolutely. Yeah. And that seems, it is wrong. Like, I don't want to say it seems wrong. It seems wrong, and it is wrong.
And I've often wondered, touching on what you just said, the perpetrators of crimes, boy, their pictures are flashed all over the news. Is that part of the feeling of victory for these people that, oh, look, I made the news, I'm famous now? Does that make other people who may have darker sides think that, well, maybe if I do something like that, I'll get on the news too. I'll be flashed all over Good Morning America, the Today Show, the national networks. I've often wondered that, and I thought, why does the news do that? Why don't we not give them attention, focus on the victims, or focus on a different part of a story or a different story rather than give them that glory? That has always gnawed at me.
I think that is a really interesting point, Jane. Raven?
I think that sometimes people, like you said, you didn't want to suggest that they might have been motivated by that, but I think that definitely is some type of driving force behind it, because some of the people who do crimes like that, serial murders and kidnapping people, do it for the thrill of the chase and to try to wrap their minds around investigators to think that, oh, if I make all these people disappear, my name will go down into history and I'll be remembered. It's so interesting that we just show a picture and maybe a sad song for the victims, but the murderer's name will go into a newspaper or be in your face in the media time and time again.
Interesting, because as you were talking, I was thinking, okay, who could I just whip off from my memory? Bonnie and Clyde, Al Capone, both of these villains in my eyes, but,
Indeed.
Thieves and murderers. They're in history. We know of them. How did we learn of them? Could we name anyone that they affected? Nope, but we know who they are.
Moreover to that point, Jane, that is super interesting is think about it in these terms. Ready? And we've all heard this expression, and they were a modern day Bonnie and Clyde. So we've even made it more glorified because we're now saying, here they are, as in Bonnie and Clyde were great, and now we're saying they're a modern day Bonnie and Clyde, instead of, why are we connecting it in that way?
There are movies about drug lords like Scarface. That's not necessarily his story, but it is modeled after a drug lord like Al Capone. Mm-hmm. So why are we retelling people's stories when they weren't even...
They didn't do anything good.
You're right. They didn't do anything good to have their story told. There's no sustenance to their wrongdoings.
And why is that the story that we want to celebrate in our culture?
Why is it the narrative? Exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you all so much. This has been a riveting discussion. Raven, I appreciate you so much being here. So on behalf of myself, Jane, and Raven, keep talking big.
Catch Let's Talk Big on Outcast OCCR Owens Community College Radio every Thursday at 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 7 p.m., and 10 p.m., and at various times throughout the week. Or listen anytime on the Owens Outcome Plus YouTube channel. Let's Talk Big on the Owens Outcome Plus YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and join us again here for Let's Talk Big, The Big Read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel.